ultimate audio experience. It never ends, perpetually going up and up, looking for that particular maximum limit or end game. So if that is your kind of thing and you are looking for digital audio player to satisfy that need, perhaps you should stay around and join me to explore this iBasso DX260. For something which is priced just under 1,000 US dollar, or if you are in Malaysia, Malaysian ringgit, 4,600 Malaysian ringgit, you can find it in RØDE Audio. This DX260 uses premium, super premium build, end to end. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the build quality of this DX260. As you can see here, mine come in silver color. And let's just quickly have a look at some of the functions around this DX260. It is pretty much similar to DX180 in many ways, just slightly larger, slightly heavier. But you're going to find, of course, this very outstanding rotary volume adjustment, which I have grown to love so very much. And this 3 button here, which is for the play, pause, forward, reverse. And of course, you're going to get on top here, SPDIF dedicated, and this USB Type-C, which support PD 3.0 charging, by the way. And of course, you're gonna need to insert your own micro SD here, because this DX260 only offers 64 GB of onboard storage with 4 GB of RAM. And at the bottom here, which is 4.4 mm balance and 3.5 mm single-ended. The design itself, just like DX180, kind of a bit edgy, so you can feel the sharpness of the edges if you touch it. But mine here, as you would notice, already equipped with this silicone case, which is included. And the rating for the battery included with this DX260 is at 4,400 mAh, which seems to be smaller than most other competition. And surprisingly, I was able to get 11 hours of runtime, non-stop, running 4.4 mm balance in high gain mode. And when doing streaming, it's even more impressive at 10 hours, just 1 hour less than the local playback. But wait, let's find out how hot this DX260 with the temperature running that 4,400 mAh of battery after quite a while running streaming through Tidal here. So let's see this thermometer here. Have a look at that. Impressive, right? 35C. The DX260 comes with Android 11, so you can expect pretty much similar kind of interface if you're familiar with Android devices, your phone or even your digital audio player. So let's just have a look at some of the features which I think important for me to show. So let's just go straight to the audio section here. And this is where pretty much you can expect similarities between this DX260 and the DX180 which I reviewed recently. It is pretty much simple, in fact, for a reference grade digital audio player. And there you can have gain. You are offered 3, which is low, middle and high, and I am always on high gain because I prefer it that way. And of course, you can also change the output, which is phone out or line out from the 3.5 mm single-ended here or from the 4.4 mm balance, and digital filter. Now this is very important. You're being offered 5 types of filter, as you can see there, okay? And I am, for the most part, always prefer to use NOS, which means that no oversampling. I am telling this DX260 not to alter anything unless, of course, depending on which partner I'm connecting it to, the slow roll-off filter tend to work better with my brighter sounding IEM or headphones. For example, like Atmos ER2 XR or even Hydis MP145 or even Dunu Titan S2 or even, let's say, some other IEM which are analytical and bright sounding. By the way, this DX260, one of the reasons that you would want to have it is because this thing contains 8 digital audio processor inside. Yes, this is an Octa core digital audio player, which means that you can have an excellent high resolution oversampling offered by this FIR output. So just to make things simple, if we want to fully utilize that Octa core, then you need to select 4x FIR, and I am almost always on that because I feel that it provides the most resolution and the most fidelity out of this DX260. Volume control knob. I already shown to you that this DX260 runs on rotary volume adjustment, and I must say that despite loving it, it is very sensitive. So for example, if you are adjusting your volume and you allow it to operate regardless whether you are switch on or even switch off with the screen switch off, when inserting into your pocket, there's a tendency to adjust the volume accidentally, and that is not pleasant at all. So what I did was, I always set this only when the screen is on so that I have full control over the volume adjustment. Just like many other digital audio player running on Android, you can expect this DX260 to offer beat perfect because it is free from SRC. So what does it mean, free from SRC? It means that it will always offer you beat perfect playback of your audio regardless of which player you use, because beat perfect means that no oversampling or undersampling unless you specify using the FIR filter, which I have shown you earlier. And let me just share with you some of the other control that you can get from this DX260. In order to achieve that, playing local playback files, you can always use the built-in Mango player, as you can see here. And if you click on the settings here, you'll be given a bit more of feature to control, to alter, to tweak the sound of this DX260. And I think very important to many people would be this equalizer here. Okay, as you can see, when I turn this on, all right, you can have two options for the equalizer, which is the preset. And also, if you are feeling adventurous, you can do parametric equalizer. So that is definitely very, very flexible. You can either choose one of those, but not both at the same time. But for me, I normally don't use equalizer because I prefer always without any kind of alteration. And the Mango player itself, it can get a bit finicky at the first time when you use it, because as you can see here, it took me quite a while to get used to it, but it is just a matter of doing swipe to the right. Okay, let me just try to show you here, okay? Yeah, like that. And you can then click on album sorting, or you can also do this, playlist, and like that. 6 VRMS of power from the 4.4 mm balance, and 3 VRMS of power from the 3.5 mm single-ended. You can expect lots of power from this DX260. So how powerful it is, I have been able to test it, use it extensively with my Hi-Fi Man Sundara here. Not an easy to drive magnetic planar, and also the Sennheiser HD 600 here. And the kind of output which I'm getting is, if I attach to 4.4 mm balance, I'm getting in excess of just over 1000 milliwatt of power each channel at 32 ohm. Impressive, right? And even from the 3.5 mm single-ended, I am still getting at 280 milliwatt of power running at 32 ohm. So with all that power, definitely the kind of experience that I'm getting is pretty much on par, similar to my desktop setup. And the best part is that despite being super powerful, it is still very silent, rated at 133 dB of signal to noise ratio. Yes, this DX260 was able to drive my highly sensitive IEM here, like FIO FA19, without any hint of floor noises at all. You might be wondering, why do I need an octa-core digital audio player with 8 dedicated DAC inside this DX260? You might have seen my review on DX180, which was already an excellent, superb, exceptionally good digital audio player, which I would consider as pretty much on par already to my desktop setup. I was already loving that DX180 until I received this DX260. We are talking about the rules of diminishing returns here. So what is the rules of diminishing returns? It is all about that craziness of chasing perfection, of squeezing the smallest ounce of possible improvement over something which is already excellent. while DX180 was already superbly very resolving, analytical, musical, and very well balanced with the sound tuning itself, what DX260 offer is the vertical depth of that same resolution. For example, when playing very high quality recording, especially DSD file, I am hearing the kind of depth, refinement over the vertical imaging and resolution of the same file. So without comparing, I was already very satisfied listening to DX180, but then I realized when I switched to DX260, I am hearing a bit more of, let's say, perspective towards the same sound. It does appear to be a bit more refined, especially with the micro detail itself on the upper frequency, the decay state on both end of the frequency, which is why you need Octa core to resolve that perfectly. But let's just compare it with some of the competition in the market which I have tried so far. And most prominent comparison would be against this FIO M23 here, okay, which is something which I love as well. Okay, the key differences between these two, I'll just simply say that DX260 is a little bit more resolving, a little bit more analytical than this M23. When you start pushing for that rules of diminishing returns, we are talking about micro improvement here, micro transient, micro details, micro dynamic kind of thing. When you start to scrutinize, okay, being in analytical mode. And also, you have to remember, this M23 still does offer a lot more feature if you love tweaking your sound, okay? And it also offers 1000 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm, similar to this DX260. However, to get the very best out of this M23, you need to run it in desktop mode, which means that you need to toggle on, attach it with PD 3.0 power, then only it will release the super high gain mode, which will allow you to access that 1000 milliwatt of power. And you want to know what? This DX260, you don't have to do that. It is always on that super high gain mode, which is basically high gain mode in this DX260. Another comparison which I would like to bring is against Cayin N6 II running on ES9038, which I used to own kind of like, over 3 years ago. That unit is super analytical. Okay, the kind of digital audio player you would want if you love macro and micro details. However, comparing between that and this DX260, both of them, by the way, are pretty much similarly priced and pretty much competing still on the same space of that $1,000 digital audio player. That Cayin N6 II with ES9038 option is just simply too analytical and less musical, while this DX260 offer better balance when it comes to being analytical and musical. So we are talking about sound presentation which sounds natural as it is analytical at the same time. To summarize, if you already own iBasso DX180, you don't have to worry too much about this DX260, especially if you are using it for just, let's say, tidal streaming, Roon streaming, or just doing FLAC playback. But if you do feel that you want to push a bit more, remember that the rules of diminishing return, to squeeze a little bit more of resolution, especially in the uppermost frequency of the extension itself, then you are looking at DX260, which is the very best for anything under $1,000.